take a look at the order. The Orioles have the #1 pick. Can't miss. Why? The Orioles are getting better. They're not going to have a #1 pick for a while. Diamondbacks 2, then the Rangers, Buccos, Nats. You see the rest of the top 10. Who do the Orioles take? They've got their catcher of the future already in Adley Rutschman. A couple years back, he was the #1 overall pick. They say you build a championship team up the middle. Shortstop, center field, you got options there. You do. We just saw Jackson Holliday. They view him can't miss at shortstop. Drew Jones, Andrew Jones' son, is a talented center fielder. If you're Mike Elias and you're in that front office and he looks at you and goes, Bo, what do you think? We got to pick one of these guys. Who'd you lean on?
Well, probably different than most people. And I'm going to lean on not a shortstop, not a center fielder, but I'm going to lean on what I think is the best bat in this draft, Tamar Johnson, the second baseman.
Wow. .com, he's #4 overall, according to .com.
One of the things that helped me with that decision, we had the MLB combines, and all the guys that you named, they did not show up for the combines. This kid showed up, and he was electric. When I say electric, it's bat speed, it's bat to ball skills. When you look at raw power to the pull side, he has the ability to use the other side of the field. Defensively, he actually probably can play shortstop, but I think he profiles better at second base. When you start to think at #1 picks, and there's never been a second baseman who's projected as a second baseman go #1 overall. But if you're the Baltimore Orioles, you're wanting to get an elite talent with this pick. To me, this kid is a all-star second baseman, elite talent that's going to be a plus defender with power.
He's in the mix, and you're absolutely right. We've never seen a second baseman, a guy that we know for the most part is going to play second base. His size, he doesn't have the height to play shortstop based on a lot of scouts. I started thinking about it. Do we have Joe Morgan, the late Hall of Famer Joe Morgan? This kid is being viewed as a can't-miss left-handed bat. His favorite player was Robbie Cano. But Joe Morgan, with the slug at that size to play second and be an elite defender, which Joe Morgan was. Bill, I think we're looking at the closest thing to Joe Morgan and Tamar Johnson.
That looked like a pretty good comp right there. And you know what's interesting, too, because you guys were out there, you saw the combine, and you've seen these guys because you've been studying these guys for a while. You mentioned all, like, high school guys, so far right out of the gates. And I think that's interesting, too, because usually during the draft, we have a consensus one.
Yes.
And I don't think we do this year. I've talked to a lot of people. I've heard a lot of things. Think that Jones is probably on most people's board first, but it's like, 18 of them. It's not 25 of them. It's not 30 of them. And that's what's happened in years past. I think a couple years back when we talked about the Orioles and Adley Rutschman, the conversation was like Bobby Witt Jr. and Adley Rutschman. But I do think Adley was on probably about 25 boards instead of, Bobby Witt was on 5.
Yeah.
And he went 2. So I think this is going to be interesting to see how things play out. And going back to your initial thoughts about the Orioles, where do you go? What do you do? I actually think Cedric Mullins can play center field for the Orioles. I'd lock him up now and look at that guy being part of this. That wouldn't exclude me from going Jones, because I don't mind more talent, in my mix. But it's interesting to see how they might view their team in the future, and the draft might give us a little bit of a hint.
Let's play this game. Let's just go off DNA, all right? Let's say Jackson Holliday is a left-handed hitting version of Matt Holliday, who can play shortstop. And Drew Jones plays center field and hits like his dad, Andrew Jones. Which of the two would you pick?
If I'm the Orioles, to me, I'm taking the everyday center fielder, because one, it's an elite position, and when you start to look at the combination of speed and power, I'm going to take the combination of speed and power over the bat at shortstop. But I think when you look at Drew Jones, there's a little bit more athleticism with his ability to play center field.
Now, if you're going to pose that to me, I'll take the big shortstop, because I think I have a history with one in the family a little bit. And there's something about a left-handed hitting big shortstop, and I would probably immediately gravitate in today's game to Seager and start talking about that. So the idea for me, I don't think you can go wrong. And look, we know enough about this, even though these guys are very talented and everything else. the big leagues are still years away for either one of these gentlemen. So you've got to worry about that in the process. So if everything was considered even, I'm taking the shortstop over the center field.
Would you agree with not a sense of urgency, but the Orioles can't miss this because of where they're at right now? They're not going to get a number one pick for a while.
Correct.
Right? This is
Correct.
Mike Elias's dream. And earlier you said, they're on schedule. Do I disagree with that? I don't think I expected Adley Rutschman to be playing with his team 2 games out of a wild card spot right before the All-Star game in his first season in the big leagues. I think they're ahead of schedule.
Well, when I say on schedule, they're on schedule from a standpoint of knowing they were going to be more competitive this year, knowing that Rutschman was going to arrive in the big leagues this year. Even when you look at the trade deadline, people pose the question, should the Orioles be looking to add? No, they're gonna subtract from this talent pool that they have, but they're not gonna trade any pieces that are a part of their long-term success. If you start to look at how do we make this team better,
so
and now you get caught up in trading some of your long-term
pieces. I want to get caught up.
Yeah, now,
let me ask
you can't let the emotion take over. You cannot let the emotion take over.
Let me ask this question for you because this is interesting to me. The Orioles had the Cubs 2, the Rays 3.
Uh-huh.
Then they have the Yankees and the Rays right out of the break. Could that change your opinion of things happening? They got 3 series: Rays, Yankees.
Rays are decimated with injuries.
They are.
I mean, no team is dealing with more injuries than the Rays.
And that's fine, but they're still the
Yankees
Rays.
5-5 in their last 10. Maybe they're human after all.
Okay. I'm just saying, you have the ability to change your mind pretty quick.
Can the Orioles change your mind? Can the Orioles win, keep winning, and become the AL East version of the Seattle Mariners and make you guys go, all right, see if you can make a deal for Luis Castillo?
Well, the only reason, for me, the reason you don't do that is because now you're making your decision based on the emotional part of what's going on in front of you. When you're on the field, like from a manager, coach, and player standpoint, we're living in the day-to-day, let's win this game, let's win this game, let's win this game. From a front office standpoint, you have to have a global look of the organization and say, what's our plan over the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years?
So they can't sway you.
You can't sacrifice. You can't sacrifice what you've built trying to win over the course of the next 3 months, and now you're back behind the 8 ball.
They win 8 more and win 16 in a row. I'd say roll the dice, and I'll say you guys keep going and playing. Because you guys are the ones that are doing it, and I like what I'm seeing.
So you wouldn't add?
No.
I will say this.
And I wouldn't add at the cost of me losing something that I have for the future. I'm not doing that.
You won't?
No. I still got pieces on my team that I'm willing to move and get me back a biscuit, but it's not going to be my future pieces.